Hey everybody, this is Captain Kyle, and I am today going to try to do a video with two Transformers against each other, if this cat lets me. We're gonna bring Ricochet up against Ricochet. Be right back. So here I have a G1 reissue of Ricochet. On the other hand, I have a Power of the Primes Special Edition Ricochet. Both of them are repaints of Jazz in the different series. Now, if you're very familiar with G1, you might be like, well, I watched G1. I never saw Ricochet. Well, first of all, Ricochet was not his original name, and secondly, he originally was not even a US character. He was a character that was only released in Japan as a Targetmaster. During the whole Targetmaster Headmaster thing, Targetmasters of Hot Rod Cup and Blur and Cyclonus and Scourge were not released in Japan, but they used Cyclonus's gun, Caliburst, in conjunction with a black repaint of Jazz, and called him Stepper. So it was presumed that because he was a Japanese exclusive, he was pretty rare, but he just wasn't actually that popular of a toy in Japan at the time. This is a reissue, and one of the reasons you can tell it's a reissue is because he has all these additional weapons. He has the same missile launcher on his shoulder that Jazz has. He has the same Jazz gun, and he also has the Targetmaster Pistol. This Targetmaster Pistol has a little nub at the end so he can actually hold it in his hand. But the original toy did not have all these things. It basically had something very similar to the missile launcher, only it had a hole in it and the Targetmaster would fit in it. It could not be held in his hand. And it was also supposed to be kind of like a combination of weapon and life support system. But regardless, he was a very cool toy. From what I understand, not the most popular in Japan at the time, but when they were starting to do reissues in the 2000s, they actually decided to reissue Stepper, and this was the first time Hasbro acknowledged the character and gave it a US name, Ricochet, which is a pretty cool name. They also had it retooled so he could hold the gun, have the weapons. So he's a very cool homage to the original. And of course, Jazz, the toy he was based off of, had many incarnations through the years, including the Power of the Primes version, actually, of Jazz. This being a repaint of that, again called Ricochet. Came in a box like this. It's a Generations Select, and he comes with a little fist foot thingy, which can also fit into his hand as an additional weapon / shield / I don't know, ghost detector. But this is a versus fight, so let's compare these two figures. Robot mode for the original G1 reissue Stepper / Ricochet. He definitely has an arsenal. I like what they did with the ability to hold the Targetmaster in his hand, plus have the original gun that Jazz had, so that way if you wanted to have him pre-Targetmaster or his Targetmaster died or something, he could still be armed. Poseability, well, he suffers the whole G1 thing. His arms can move, he can even point off to the side, but he's got such limited poseability, nothing in the waist. You can't move the legs back and forth, he can't kneel, he can basically stand there. Power of the Primes Ricochet, obviously a lot more posable. His knees bend, he can do some very cool poses, he can dance. He can just about do the Jean-Claude Van Damme.
That hurts me just looking at it.
He's got hip articulation, he can bend at the elbows, he can move his arms in many different ways. Definitely the posability is much better. Does he look like Jazz? Well, he looks like Power of the Primes Jazz, but overall a good figure. Vehicle modes. Now with all the G1 stuff, you had to take all the accessories off before you transform them and put them aside and hope to not lose them. Though with Ricochet being a Targetmaster, you do have a post near his spoiler that you can put his Targetmaster gun. Overall vehicle mode looks awesome. Die cast. These are the toys way back in the 80s that would fool parents into thinking, oh, it's just a toy car, because they were very shiny and looked very good. So I would say the vehicle mode for G1 Reissue Ricochet is very cool, very much the same Porsche as jazz. And of course you do have to put aside the weapons and hope that you don't lose them. With Power of the Primes, you do have to take the weapons off before you can transform. He does this really weird, stretchy thing, kind of like Mr. Fantastic. It transforms into this sports car. I'm not sure what kind of car it's supposed to be. I'm no car expert. It does have a post. You can put his weapon there. Now, the one thing about putting the weapons on the cars is they're supposed to be robots in disguise. Wouldn't people be like, why is there a big weapon sticking out of this car? Is that a disguise? The fist foot thingy, I imagine you could attach it somewhere. Looks like you can also put the guns on the side. And yes, a parent looking at this would probably say, yes, that's a car. It doesn't have the heft of the diecast, but it's a decent sports car. Not quite as classy as the Porsche. They're both cool. So G1 Reissue, not a lot of posability, great vehicle mode. Lots of accessories. Power of the Primes is not a Targetmaster. Shares the same name. Decent vehicle mode. Lots of posability. And of course it can merge with other Transformers to form a larger robot. That's kind of the whole Combiner Wars, Power of the Primes thing. Which one is better? You decide. Vote right up here. G1 or Power of the Primes. Which do you think is the better Ricochet? Or you can call him Stepper, though that sounds like some kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles villain. Behold the Stepper. So that was Toy versus Toy featuring Ricochet. We will be back with more episodes. Be sure to check out these videos over here. You can also subscribe right down there. Hit the bell so you're notified when we put out new toy reviews and other videos. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.